right. Hey, you guys. We're doing movie retrospective again.
Yeah, this was a good 1 hour photo.
Man, I had forgotten how kick-ass and awesome this movie was.
This movie impressed me when I saw it back in, what was it, 2000?
2002. This came out, yeah.
I was like, man, this movie's fucking great. But boy, I didn't realize I didn't realize it would age this well. This movie fantastic. This is a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, big time.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, so the thing about this one, I think was it Louis or Michael that sent us this? Sent us this on Blu-ray?
I don't know.
Yeah, one of you two guys did. I apologize if I can't remember, but yeah, so I had put it in the polls and finally
I think it might have been Louis.
Yeah, I think it might have been as well.
Yeah.
And we put it in the Patreon poll and it finally got voted on this week, so I was very excited because I had really been wanting to revisit it. I saw this in the theater when it came out back in 2002. I distinctly remember going and see it in the theater. And the thing about this is that this and the movie Insomnia, which I believe came out the same year as this, these were kind of like the first two movies where you saw Robin Williams in a real serious or more like a villainous role, I guess. Yeah. Because he'd been in some serious movies before, but he still had like a little bit of his, kind of, I guess, his Robin Williams shtick kind of thing going on still.
Yeah, he was trying to broaden his repertoire. And, it was real unusual to kind of cast Robin Williams as a villain. Although, I don't think this particular character is an actual villain. I think it's kind of a mixed bag.
Because he does do bad things, but you can understand why he does, and he does have like a sympathetic side to him.
He's mentally ill.
Yeah, mentally ill. So you actually can, understand where he's coming from and feel sorry for him, even though you don't advocate what he's doing, obviously, because it's super weird and creepy.
It's about this guy. He's kind of a loner. Well, he is a loner. No family. At least doesn't show any family in no family connections. You know what I mean? In his personal life, basically works at Walmart. All right, they don't use the word Walmart.
I think it's just called Save Mart or something like that.
Works at Walmart, and he's the photo technician. They had these back in the day. Some of you guys are probably too young. Some of you guys might be too young.
Photo technician. What
the hell's that? Back in the day, you had to take photographs out of a camera. Take them to Walmart and get the film developed.
Yeah.
And it was expensive. And most of the photos fucking came out shitty. So you ended up paying for photos that weren't any good. So it was always kind of weird, taking your photos to get developed because you weren't sure, was somebody else looking at your photos? Yeah, they were looking at your photos.
Well, that's it, and they kind of address this a little bit on there, where he's talking about some of his regular customers, and it's like you always have like the amateur pornographer
porn guy,
because I'm like, didn't anybody figure out like to take porny pictures? Duh, Polaroid. But that was the thing.
The quality was bad.
But the quality was bad.
Or why don't you learn to develop your own film in your own darkroom? It doesn't really. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, I feel like anybody that's doing like super like really porny things would kind of invest in their own developing things.
I was on yearbook staff, so me and another guy, we developed all the photos for the yearbook back when I was in Brazil. So I don't know, developing photos didn't seem like a big deal to me. It's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun. I did that in junior high, I guess. I took like a whole photography thing where they had a whole dark room set up, and you learned how to. Man, you learned how to do... Remember you used to have to take the film out of the thing? Like, you had to put your hands through this little bag. Like, in a little black bag that had, like, fucking, stuff around your wrists. And you had to, like, go in there and feel around so it didn't get any light in it and all this other kind of crap.
So Robin Williams plays this guy. He doesn't seem to have any family connections. He works photo development. And it's like his life. He's, like, super good at it. He's training other people. But he was started to live vicariously through a client. Their family photos would come in, and he was kind of like real envious of this guy with his wife and the kid, and he wished he had a family because he didn't have a family. He's about 50, so I guess that time passed him by, and he didn't have a family. So he wanted to have a family, so he starts stalking them. It's pretty awesome. And then as fucking shit starts to unfold, it turns out the dude that he's envious over, he wishes he had this family. It turns out that dude is screwing around on his wife.
Yeah.
And that just shatters his whole fucking worldview, because this guy's got something that, you know, he would fucking die for, and he's just throwing it away on this damn affair.
A side piece.
So he kind of goes on a mission to kind of rectify this. It doesn't work. But,
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It doesn't go the way.
But a bunch of weird shit happens in the movie, and really I walked away from this movie fucking, it was confirmed to me that this movie's a fucking masterpiece. It looks great. The way it's shot, it's real sterile and futuristic looking, even though it was probably shot in 2000, 2002, around that time.
Yeah.
It's aged super well. It looks futuristic. But it looks futuristic in a way that a dead mall looked futuristic. It's just a trip. Real good score. Touches of industrial music in there, you know, going on in the background. It's just a lot of suspense in it. Real good acting. And I'm convinced, after watching this flick now, is that Michael Fassbender, is that his name?
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender, the guy that played David from Prometheus. Yeah, she remembers. She can think for me. From Prometheus. I think he looked at this movie and this character to try to help him build the character of David, because it just seems like a lot of the same.
There are some similarities, like
the
when
blonde
you
hair
pointed it out,
and the way he moves, because this guy's doesn't know how to be a real person. He's just trying to act like a normal person. And that's the way that robot was from Prometheus. He wanted to be a real person. But it's kind of hard to do that when you're a robot. You know what I mean? So I think he saw this movie, and I think it helped him build that character.
Very well might have. Because, you know, the more when you pointed it out, and I was watching, I was like, yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of similarities between that. I mean, it could be just a coincidence, but I don't really know.
A lot of the same mannerisms, a lot of the same delivery, you know, the highly polished, highly professional, you know, speech patterns, and trying to be kind of generic. Trying to take something generic and make that like a good thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He was trying to be real official. That's what it was like.
And
everything was sterile and generic.
Yeah, and the thing about it...
To hide what it really was.
Yeah.
And what it really was is he was kind of a loser, you know?
Yeah, but like I said, he's not... I think that's really good, because it's really hard to pull off a character like this. This was written and directed by Mark Romanek, in case I didn't say it, who hasn't done a shit ton of movies. He actually does a lot of music videos. Okay. He did, you know, when Johnny Cash covered that the Trent Reznor song "Hurt."
Yeah.
In that video, like, which was really iconic. Yeah, he directed that, and so you can definitely see. And I think, too, the cinematographer for this, because the cinematography in this is so good. It's just, and the framing of the shots, it's just, it's really, really nice looking. I think the cinematographer, I can't remember what his name was, but it might have been the same dude that worked with, like, in a lot of, like, David Fincher's movies, like, you know, Fight Club and shit like that.
And there's something about the color palette, just the way the shot composition is. The color palette and the filters, everything looks real sterile and corporate.
And I think they're also kind of trying to contrast, whenever they show Robin Williams' character, whose name is Cy Parrish, they call him Cy, the photo guy.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to show, one, how sterile his life is, and how empty his life is, because everything is white or cream colored. You know, there's just, there's no color in his life. There's no joy in his life. And it's kind of contrasted with the shots that you see of the family that he stalks, the Yorkin family, who are, it's all done in, like, real warm, rich, you know, colors, like saturated colors.
A lot of woods.
Yeah. Like a real natural.
Now, the thing with Cy is, I called him a loser, but it's not really his fault. He's just a very empty character. You find out more about him later. I'm not going to steal the movie's thunder. But he's just a very lonely character. Very lonely.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's going to have he's in a very sterile corporate environment where he works. He doesn't really have friends. And his boss is the same guy out of Office Space that does can you come in on, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday. That guy,
That guy
plays his boss.
I feel like that dude is like so typecast.
Yeah,
now. It's like
yeah.
It's like anytime you need some asshole corporate boss, it's like call that dude up. That's what
I think I'm gonna need you to come out on Saturday. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
And and of course, and once again, he knocks it out of the park in this movie. He does a great job. Doesn't have a big cast. I was like, man, what kind of car is that? It was a Toyota Echo, and it shows him driving that 2000 Toyota Echo around a lot, and it's this little bitty economy car, cream colored with the interior, and it ends up being kind of like a character in the movie in a way because he's in it a lot.
Yeah.
And it kind of
on all his stalking activities.
Yeah, and there's something like about that car kind of personifies him. It's just a bare minimalist car. You know what I mean?
And it's white.
And it's cream and white, and it just looks very corporate and not much personality, and it's like, you know, it's like a poor guy's nondescript car. It's not a bad car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like a poor guy's perfect car.
They're trying to make him, I guess they were trying to make him look like bloodless and like washed out because they were just trying to show that.
Not a lot of personality.
Yeah, that he was, that his life was just empty and there just like wasn't.
Very generic.
Yeah. Like even his apartment, when they show his apartment, it's like all the walls are cream colored. It's like there's not a lot of furniture. There's not a lot of anything. All that's in there is this massive collage of all of the photographs that he's stolen from. Yeah, because every time this family comes in, because he's been developing their photos for a really long time. Because if you see some of the ones like, you know, this one, their kid was a baby and like
almost a decade.
Yeah, because the kid's 9, and
you
know, so he had pictures of like when the kid was born and everything. And for all of that time, every time that family comes in to get their pictures developed, he makes an extra set for himself.
Yeah.
And then he takes them home and puts them in this big fucking collage. The weird thing about this movie, and like I said, I think this is why a character like this is really hard to pull off. Because like I said, you don't want him too pathetic, because that will turn people off. You don't want him too sympathetic because he is kind of a villain. Like, I mean, in the sense that he does really bad things that he shouldn't be doing. But I just feel like he threaded that needle so well that even when he does shit that maybe like another actor or something like that did, like for example, the scene where he turns up at the kid's soccer match and he's like watching the kid and he gives him a toy and stuff. It feels like in the hands of another actor or maybe in another movie, everybody would be like, woo, perv alert, you know, and it'd be like creepy and stuff, but he doesn't really give that vibe off.
They made sure that you're not sure of this guy's motives.
Yeah.
They made sure that you don't know. We're spoiling it here.
Well, I mean, like I said, this is a retrospective, so this movie's, you know, 20 years old, so.
When I was watching it, I kept thinking it was going to go really sideways, but it didn't.
That was another thing too that I actually really like about
really
this.
Bad, and it didn't get that bad.
And I think that's
because you don't know who he is,
right?
Yeah.
They don't give a lot of his backstory. Like at the end, you know, he does kind of give a little bit, but even then it's all kind of like implication, and so they don't go a lot into his backstory. You just kind of have to fill in the blanks yourself, which I kind of like. I like that they left it kind of vague. Another thing that I like about this too is that this could have gone. I like how restrained this movie is. I like that it very well could have gone, because there's been other thrillers about like, you know, a loner weirdo that like is stalking somebody or whatever. This is not the first time that's ever been done.
It never gets crazy.
But it doesn't go off the rails where it's like, oh, now he's like murdering everybody. Now he's doing this. It really isn't. It's very grounded. It's very realistic.
It's like something that would happen.
Yeah, it just doesn't get crazy, and I like that about it. Like that might piss some people off. I don't know, because they want to see more of, I guess, more of a climax or more.
It was perfect in its time.
But I really like that it's kind of that it's very reserved.
Well, I think what it was trying to do is that he was the villain in the story, but he wasn't that bad.
No,
he didn't think he was the villain. He thought he was the good guy.
Right.
Which that's the way it usually goes down. He thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, basically, so what he thought he was doing, I think, was that he wasn't trying. And another thing I like too, like I said, they didn't make it so that he was like perving on the kid. He wasn't perving on the mom.
You weren't sure at first.
Yeah,
They made it so you suspected he was perving on the mom. Then you thought he was perving on the kid. Turns out he wasn't perving on any of them.
No, it was a totally different...
Yeah.
He honestly just wanted to insert himself into the family. He wanted to be Uncle Si.
Yeah.
He just wanted to...
And then he wanted to save the family, which maybe ultimately he did.
I think that might have been the implication, or one of the implications at the end of the movie, is that he did kind of end up saving the family.
Yeah, and he gets in big trouble, but that was his sacrifice. I think it didn't actually come out and say it, but it did show kind of like shots of all the family together with him kind of in it.
Yeah.
So I guess he did save the family.
I mean, I think that was his imagination, though, because it does kind of go in and out where...
Yeah, maybe he just thought he saved the family.
Yeah, because remember how, like, that long sequence where he's sitting out in front of the house, and then suddenly he's in there.
Yeah, he thought he was in the house. He wasn't.
And he's, like, walking around the house, looking at all their shit, like, taking a dump in their toilet.
Yeah.
All this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then it turned out that, and then you see the family come in, and you're like, oh, shit, he got caught. But then they don't react, or they're just like, hey, Uncle Si, what's up? So then it's kind of, like, in his head. Yeah. And he really seems... That's, I think, what makes him so sympathetic, is that he doesn't have... murderous designs on him. He doesn't want to rape anybody. He just wants to be involved.
You're right.
He wants to, sit on the couch and have this family come home, and he's just like an extended part of their family. That's all he wants. Yeah. Because I guess what the implication was from the end of the stuff, like after he gets caught and like the cop is interviewing him and stuff, was that he never had that when he was a kid. Yeah. So it's almost kind of like, I saw somebody point this out, and this was actually probably a really astute observation, was that he was actually trying to not replace the kid, but he was trying to make himself, one of the kids. Like, he was going back in time, like, to make up for the childhood that he never had, because his family was super fucked up, and they were terrible to him. So he wanted to, have this perfect family that he never had. Yeah. So it's all so I think that's kind of what he was doing. He wasn't interested in usurping anyone. He wasn't interested. He just wanted to be a part of this family because he had never had that. I
remember after seeing the movie, back in 2002, 2003, I didn't see it in the movies. I can't remember where I saw it. I think I rented it or something. After seeing the movie, I kind of was under the impression that maybe Robin Williams had like a dark side to him. Yeah. Turns out, he had killed himself later. Maybe, he did. I guess he did. They said he had serious depression problems, which makes you think that he might have kind of felt for this character. He might have had something in common with him in terms of feelings of isolation or something.
I definitely think that he was bringing something of himself to this role, which
it's a great role, man. It's a great role. It's a great movie.
It really is, and it's just, it's this whole thing where, like, because there was something else I was going to say, too, about another theme of the movie, too, and it's interesting because even though, this is from 2002, when digital cameras were just starting to make inroads into, most people still had film cameras, and you still took your, pictures to be developed, obviously, but digital cameras were just starting to kind of come on the market, and we're trying to, we're just starting to get, like, cheap enough that, regular people could have them. So I feel like people nowadays that have only known digital photos, that might be a little, like, weird to them or off-putting because it's like a whole other technology that doesn't really exist all that much anymore. But that said, one theme of this movie I think is still really relevant, and actually is maybe more relevant nowadays than it was back then, which is the whole thing where he was talking about people taking pictures only of happy things or of things they want other people to see. It's like nobody takes pictures of things that they want to forget. Yeah. So he was so there's a thread running through this movie of the things you see in pictures are always kind of like the idealized version of what is actually going on, which, like I said, in the age of social media, that's probably more relevant than ever.
Yeah, although there is no social media in this movie at all. It's pre-social media. Yes. And there's something about that tone that it just works for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? It takes me back to that time. So guys like Si could exist. They did exist. Yeah. I don't think they exist to the same amount, in the same numbers as maybe they just look at other people's shit and fucking go, man, I don't have that. you know. But it's just, I don't think people were as isolated.
Yeah.
I don't think they're as isolated today as they were back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more outlets for people nowadays than maybe back then. Because like you said, I mean, he just was kind of sitting around watching TV.
Yeah.
You know, drinking a beer
Dumbass
in his apartment all by
television,
himself.
yeah.
He was watching The Simpsons,
Watching
actually.
The Simpsons.
But yeah, so that was kind of the thing. So I thought that was an interesting take also, as I said, and it's very relevant in kind of social media, where everybody has all these, like, look at all this shit that I'm doing, like putting up on my Instagram, and it's like, you're not showing like all the unhappy shit that happens in your life, you know what I mean? So I think that that's still really relevant now, and that's kind of what made him go off the deep end, was not only finding out that the dad of the supposedly perfect family was fucking around, and he actually found out because he developed the mistress's film and saw him in it, like smooching on her and stuff. So just the fact of that happening and then him getting fired at the same time because he finally got busted for, you know, making all those copies of the photos.
Wasn't right.
Yeah, because like I said, over 9 or 10 years making, I mean, photo paper and shit like that back then, that was not cheap.
Yeah.
So corporate would probably let you get away with it for a while, but then they're just like, hey, this is a huge discrepancy over 10 years. Like every time he makes, you know, 2 photos per thing, it was like he just makes extra ones every single time of that one family. So, you know, you'd think that they would notice after a while, and they did. Actually, although I think, and I didn't realize this when I was watching it, but I think, because I'm sitting there going, man, he was taking extra photos for like 10 years, so you'd think they would have called him out on it before that. I think the reason that it came up was because he got into an altercation with the dude that was repairing the machine. Yeah. Because he was sitting there going, oh, it's like a 0.3% cyan shift, and it's like, fix it. And the guy was like
getting ratted him out,
Yeah, so I think that might have been what happened, that he made that dude mad.
Right, right.
So I think that's why that whole scene was in there.
Makes sense now.
Yeah, so
He reported the fucking discrepancy.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I put those two things together, like, until
makes sense,
later. Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, that would have been instigating. So him getting fired, and around the same time finding out that, you know, the dude was fucking around on his wife, and, you know, Cy kind of thinking to himself that, you know, you have the perfect family supposedly and you don't appreciate it. Yeah. So he thought that he was just going to go and sort everything out.
Yeah, the movie is not an action movie. But
not at all.
But the way it's edited, it seems like an action movie. It unfolds very quickly. It shows you a lot of cool shit. Visually, the movie's fucking real interesting. It's almost kind of Kubrickian.
I was thinking that too, especially like that famous dream sequence where he's standing in that white in the aisle, like in the store, and it's all empty, and then like his eyes start to bleed and all this other kind of shit. It's like super creepy.
It's almost kind of like something Stanley Kubrick would do.
That's what I was thinking too.
Really
like
kind of had weird stillness and fucking the way the shots are set up and the color palette and everything's just. It's very visual for a movie that isn't an action movie, and there is like a couple little action scenes about him getting arrested and stuff. And the dream sequence and stuff. I mean, it's fun to watch. It's good.
Yeah,
it just pulled me into it.
It's a really unsettling movie. I think it's a quiet movie, but it has like. There's just something really unsettling about it.
The tone. It's the tone and the acting. It's real good.
I mean, like I said, great score, great framing. It's just it's a beautiful looking movie. And like I said, I saw it in the theater back in 2002 when it came out. And I think I saw it one more time subsequently, like years later, but I haven't seen it for probably at least 10 years or more. Yeah. And I had forgotten how beautiful it was. And I had forgotten how compelling it was. You know what I mean? It's just the imagery, and it's just this creepy like atmosphere, but also really sad. It's like a really, really sad story. He's a really sad character.
It's sad, but a lot of times sad movies are boring, and it's not like that. You just got to see it. It pulls you into it because Williams pulls you into this story because it's driven by this character that he is. Yeah. And he's kind of threatening in a way. But you kind of feel for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're not really sure why you're letting the story unfold. And, you know, it's good. Real good. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. And as I said...
I think forgotten, pretty much.
Yeah, it's not one that gets brought up a lot. Yeah. It seemed like it was a pretty big, box office success. It was like a pretty moderate success. It only cost $12 million to make, and it made. I
remember people talking about it.
It made like 50-odd million. Yeah. And like I said, I think that a lot of people point to this as probably one of Robin Williams' best roles, if not his best role. And as I said, this was right around the time period when he was just trying to spread his acting wings and get out of the comedic thing, and was trying to do more dramatic. So you have Insomnia, which, as I said, I believe came out the same year as this. I think, wasn't Robert De Niro in that? I want to say I saw it and it was good, but I think Robin Williams played a serial killer in that. And the weird thing too, and I had forgotten all about this until I saw somebody else mention it, Robin Williams was actually in another movie which was very similar premise to this one, called Final Cut. And it's kind of like, I think it was more sci-fi, because I think it was a thing where you could, like, there were these chips that were in your eyes and it recorded all your memories. And Robin Williams' job in that movie was to, like, when you died, was to edit together, like, all your best memories that they would show at your funeral. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a similar premise to this. It was like, oh, like all the best times of your life or anything. And I remember seeing it, like when somebody brought it up, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that with the eyes. I remember that. So it's like, seemed like a really similar premise to this. And I remember that one being really good as well. But it's just really interesting to me how someone like Robin Williams, who, like I said, you know, made his fortune in comedy, a lot of times these dudes that are really high up in the comedy world, when you give them a really good meaty dramatic role, they just knock it right out of the fucking park.
Yeah.
I mean, look at somebody like Adam Sandler or something like that, who's, you know, whose comedy movies are just like stupid as fuck.
Man, Uncut Gems was the shit.
But yeah, but then you see something like Uncut Gems or Spanglish or something like that, where it's just like the dude can fucking act.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's crazy, like, to think that. So it's crazy to think that Robin Williams, who was kind of known as like this coked up, kind of crazy, that was kind of his shtick for a really long time. And then when they gave him roles like this, like a really quiet role where he just had to be just this flat affect, like, through the whole thing, and he just really, really pulled it off.
Yeah, what's kind of impressive is that Robin Williams is not a physically imposing guy, but in this movie, he kind of cuts kind of a sinister figure. Like he can do something bad. It's good. Yeah. It's a good movie.
And as I said, you should probably see Insomnia too if you haven't. I remember that being also very good. And like I said, he plays a killer in that one. And I remember that really working as well. Seen it. Yeah. So maybe that's one that we
remember Bicentennial Man.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I remember not liking that, but I haven't seen it for a long time, so I don't really know.
A robot.
I don't really want to say because I just remember kind of seeing it and being like, what? Okay. But so again, I'm pretty sure that Louis sent us this. So thank you very much for sending. If it was Michael, I'm sorry. Whoever it was, thank you very much for sending this. And I'm really, really glad that we got to see it again and that we got to talk about it a little bit with you guys. So if you haven't seen it, 1 hour photo, came out in 2002.
Yeah, and, you got to see it.
Yeah, you got to see it. It's really, really good. So that'll do it for this review, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.